Welcome back once more to what's being set up as the final world, the Dream Labyrinth. This world is going to truly put everything that we've learned to the test and make us combine them in ways that we've barely, if at all, done before. But nothing particularly new is introduced, just different ways of applying what we already know. As granted, has mostly just been the case throughout the Great Beyond. So while it may often seem extremely challenging, there's nothing being hidden from you. You know what you can do, you just need to figure out what to do. But really, there's not too much more to say, so without any further ado, let's just get into it. So here we are, in the hub. There is a lot to look at, but for now, we don't really need to think too hard about any of it. Honing in on your next goal and the definitive, logical, objective, whatever word you want to use, steps to get there should just be your main focus throughout this entire world, as it more or less always is. But regardless, in this case, with just how much you have access to, I think it's important to emphasize. For us, we have to solve a puzzle to even get into the first proper level. There is an accessible salvage point behind a stone door, but given that ID 22 is simply not in the hub, we don't need to worry about that for now. Which, for better or worse, just means we're going to be doing a math puzzle. We need 1,000 whites, we start with 80, and the combo doors all give you -2x your current whites, whether negative or positive, but because they turn your positives negative, we're effectively forced into opening a second all door once we open one, meaning we can consider each side as a way to just quadruple your whites. And of course, secondarily, we also can remove 30, 10, 3, and 2 whites individually via the standard doors. Well, I'm sure there's a very fancy math technique we could use to solve this, or probably even a rudimentary one. We obviously know we'll need both 4x's to reach 1,000, so I just chose to work backwards and see if I can make something work from the numbers we got lying around. So first I divided 1,000 by 4, resulting in 250, then very briefly fiddled around with adding any of those normal door counts to 250 to find something that's a multiple of 4, and yes, by adding 30 to 250, you get 280, which is 4 times 70, thus finding our answer. So, in summary, open the 10 door to go down to 70, open 2 all doors to reach 280, open the 30 door to go to 250, and lastly, open the other 2 all doors to get to exactly 1,000 white so you can finally enter the first level. And we are immediately given many choices, hence the title. Firstly, do we want to solve the level or just salvage one of these negative I doors? At least for now, let's just focus on the form. We need to get to a positive cyan key, all 4 pure keys, and to remove all of our normal colored keys besides cyan after gaining cyan. First, counting locks, all the colored doors have a sum of 10, and there's currently no way to go negative with or without that negative master, thus making this level currently impossible. So, with our requirements in mind, let's head back to the lobby, as that output ID is the ID of our input in the lobby, that being 22. And don't worry about having to redo the solve to actually get in here, as once you enter a level in this hub, the fast travel doorway is open at spawn. Since we know we need to go negative, that means we need a bicolored or combo door, as no normal doors can bring your count below 0. Surprisingly, despite the vastness of this hub, that only leaves a couple options. The combo all whites at the start, or this combo all orange on the right. The latter is now accessible as we have access to Salvage 23 in level 1, which can let us gain 1 eye of the elemental keys. Now to go over our options, first we need to note that similar to in the lobby, we need to open either of those doors twice so we can return to a positive count and clear them, thus spending our master. For white, this once again means it effectively quadruples our whites, so no matter how low you go beforehand, since our master was already spent, we cannot go down to 0 white if we did that combo door, thus leaving only the orange one as our option. So we quickly salvage both the blue eye combo, followed by the combo all orange in the lobby. Then we can just go back into the level with all the elements needed to solve it, and our last actual thinker part of this is just making sure that we actually open the combo cyan with enough orange and small enough of the others to actually gain a key. Effectively, the sum of all others needs to be less than the absolute value of orange, and while this sounds somewhat smart, it can basically be boiled down to spend any keys as long as you're spending more of the others than you're using of orange. So, for example, the bottom path should be fully opened because while it does spend 2 orange, it gets rid of 15 of the other keys. But we do need to keep in mind that we can't spend all of our keys of those other colors, or we can't open the door at all. This is mostly irrelevant, but importantly, purple is always a good trade in terms of spent keys, meaning we have to ignore one of them for the sake of still being able to open the door. This is of course a pretty easy choice just by looking at it, as obviously leaving the one lock does the least damage, so to speak, to our potential cyan gain, effectively only losing us 3 keys compared to sparing any other purple, which would immediately be 4 or more. So finally, following all this logic, we can then add a copy of the blast door and effectively sign flip our orange, open cyan, getting us exactly 1, sign flip back, spend the remainder of our keys, and leave. So back to the lobby again. Our next level is in the top left, meaning firstly we need to make a quick trip to change Salvage 23 to a one-eye red instead, but then after that, our first step to get into the meat of it is spending 45 white so we can actually open the blank one, which thankfully just means opening all the normal white doors, nothing fancy. This will then get us to 10 red and 5 pink. We can then also take the 2 white and dupe them with the doors to get up to 8 white, which are actually needed to get to the doorway. For the actual hard part, we now need to figure out how to get to the end of all this with 0 white, red, pink, and pure. But that's mostly there just so we can't do any cheese. The 0 white prevents us from getting any more off the alders, meaning we can only take 1 path per segment. The first thing to note is this 3-lock red at the end. If hypothetically opened now, we'd be going down to 7 red, so we would have to spend exactly 7 to get to the next level. However, that's the only odd red door here, meaning that we cannot get down to 0 from there. That thusly means that we have to skip it somehow, and given that there's no masters available, that has to be through brown. We only have 1 tangible brown key here, but we do have a bicolored door that gives us -1, as well as a sign flip, and most importantly, the combo alders back towards spawn. If we open that on brown with the 1 key up top, we'd go down to -2 brown. Follow this up with a bicolored brown to get to -3, we can then sign flip when ready to leave, letting us actually open the red door on brown. And since we figured that out, we can also lock in the top route here with the brown as the one that we'll have to go through, which also spends a pink, bringing us down to only 4 more that we can actually spend. If we spent those via the 4 lock at the start, we'd have to take the 8 lock and 4 lock red, which, doesn't add up to 10, hence we must instead take the 6 lock to start, as well as the 2 2-lock pads. And so finally, with all that put together, we can actually, do it and then enter level 2. And as per tradition, another level means another salvage point, this time ID 24, as well as an output for 22, again. We'll think about both of these in the future, but for now, let's just figure out what to actually do. We need 20 blue to leave, so how do we get, any keys in the first place? Looking at the level itself, there's clearly no door that does that for free, similar for the lobby. But of fairly big note is that we do start with some keys, and of course, that's stone keys. And considering we've got glitch doors here, we're gonna have to get the state set to stone, then figure something out from there. And thankfully, getting the state set to stone is actually pretty easy. We have a stone 1 lock at spawn that regenerates every time the lobby is entered, so by entering a level via fast travel and then backing out, we'll be able to hit Salvage 22 and then the stone door, thus handling the start. So now our question shifts to, what do we do now? Well, our only real starting move is to open the stone door, and any other option would just be opening the blank bicolored door, which just sets the state to blue, which accomplishes literally nothing, so we do this instead. Following that, we have extremely limited options, so the only one that actually does anything of value for us is opening the bicolored 8 lock on the left, getting us -8 blue. In terms of the number line, this is going in the wrong direction, but this does allow us a few options, that being opening some bicoloreds or the 3 lock above. To take a brief sidestep, the only way to get to positive blue by the end is via purple, and the combo blasts in the center. These doors, when on blue, take all of your current blue and then replace them with the -1 times your purples, meaning that we have to open these at -20 or less purple. This then means we'll need a few things, specifically both purples as well as the 2 combo orange doors, to -3x our orange first. Then we sign flip it to be positive again. To reach the -3x combo, we need to first open a blast, which means we have to spend some amount of orange on that, while the sign flip is on orange. But we also need to think about how to get the state back onto blue for the glitch combos, which really only provides one way to do so, that being the blank bicolored glitch in the bottom right. So, to summarize, we'll need to open -20 or less purple via both doors, getting there via the second one, then get the state on a color we have none of, so we can set the state to blue, and finally open a combo to reach 20 plus blue. So now to get back to what's next, we can safely open the -3 lock since we know we won't need to set the state to blue before the end. Now we need orange, but the question is which? We obviously cannot take both before the blast door is opened, and if we took the 5 lock first, we'd end up not being able to get enough oranges to actually get enough purple, so we must take the 1 lock to begin. There is obviously just no better time to open the blast, so we can do that as well. Then grab 5 more orange, and logically we open a purple since any other option just soft locks, which sets us on course that we charted earlier. So following that trail once more, we hit the combo blasts, grab the other purple, which brings us perfectly to -20, and are left with the final step we didn't fully know, which now kind of just reveals itself through process of elimination. We can just open the bicolored combo cyan, since the cost is -2 and 2, which gets us 0 cyan, but still changes the state to cyan, letting us set the state to blue using the glitch below, and finally we can open the combo door to get to 20 blue and leave. And we're back to the lobby now with another salvage point available with 24. The next level is in the bottom left, so we'll need to get 23 onto green instead so we can enter Watermelon Hell. These doors seem largely irrelevant, at least right now, just giving us various amounts of negative green. The real gate being a blank stone door. Thankfully though, that's also pretty easy to handle. Obviously there's no big stone doors that we can open, and the only normal one that we have is a 1 lock, so we'll need a glitch door by process of elimination. Of course, we just saw some in level 2, more specifically, a blast one. So, quickly, we just run through the level again, and eventually salvage it. We can then easily re-enter the lobby, open the 1 lock stone at spawn, clear the rest with the blast, and from there, it's just a straight shot to level 3. Welcome back, imaginary copies. So, we need to find a way to get rid of 3 black. The question then is, what door can we salvage that does that, since obviously nothing in the level actually does. Our output for this level is 22, so anything we can get to the hub is a valid choice. The hub, as is, only has 1 black door, but it only sets the glitch state to black, which we can't use in this level. Working backwards, there's technically a black door in level 2, but we've got no way to open that currently, and nothing else here is particularly relevant, so we move on. So, sure enough, level 1 has a -I copy, which is the only way to spin the black that we've got. And moreover, going back to level 3 for just a second, we can see that we get -5I masters right at the start, and I times -I is equal to 1. Since I times I is equal to -1, so -I times that, you get it. An eye copy of this door will provide a way to remove the positive black. So we just salvage that from level 1, and then in the hub salvage it once more on 22. With that, we can then spend all our masters at the start to enter the real meat of the stage. The actual solve from here is rather free. We've got a pretty bog standard door followed by a negative eye copy, meaning we need to get a negative eye master to actually open it. There's only one available, and it's behind the red and green door, an eye and a negative door respectively, thus needing an eye and negative master. You notice that the signs follow into the masters yet? We already have the eye key, and a negative is in the front of the negative green, so we can just basically walk to the negative eye key and then grab our blacks, clear them, and leave. We'll come back later for any salvages, as for now we're just focusing on the clear. So once more back to the lobby, and now the next level is in the bottom right, so we'll once again have to switch 23 to the blue door. But for the actual puzzle, we need negative 50 blue and 40 orange to leave, starting with negative 10 and 10 each respectively. Before even needing to get into the puzzle proper, we already know we have to enter the main section through this top route, as the bottom route requires spending both negative and positive blue to cross. That means we need to find a way to shoot all the way up to 30 orange right off the bat, using that sign flip door in the process, which means searching for a salvage that will do that. Ignoring level 1, we can effectively see our answer just immediately in level 2. That combo blast effectively multiplies your orange by negative 3, meaning we can go to negative 30, then use the sign flip door to go up to 30, so we can actually open the door. This does require setting ID 22 back to the stone lock so we can actually open the block before it, which does mean repeating some of our solve at this level, but afterwards we can just salvage it on 24. And for the record, level 3 does not contain anything useful to orange here, just to be clear. And so now we can make our way over in the hub, opening combo blast and sign flip doors to reach 30, then cross over, and now we are going to be at 2 orange. To assess the basics of what we have to work with here, we have 2 orange sign flips, 1 blue sign flip, and some star and unstar keys for both in a particular order. But for better or worse, we need to count the locks as well, as a way to see the gains and losses for both colors per route, primarily regarding the bicolors. Having done so, and saving you the effort hopefully, there's an absolute value of 45 orange and 52 blue, which does mean that stars are going to be mandatory for several of these opens. For blue, we cannot ignore taking any of these doors, so any greater than 2 that block gaining more blue keys will need to be starred. That means all but the negative 2 lock on the bottom right middle, or the 2 lock in the top right, will need to be opened while starred. And now we run into our secondary problem. How can we get all the orange we need if we only have 1 sign flip for blue? Well, once more, there's really no way around this besides finding a good salvage. 25 is our only free one that we have access to right now, so we'll start with page 3. And yeah, there's a pretty obvious one here, that being the sign flip blue door up top. It is an eye copy, but since it's an all door anyways, it will just work the exact same as if it was a normal one. So get yourself an eye master, hit the salvage point, and open it up. And then, finally, we can actually solve it. So once again, back to the key counts. We can spare at most 5 orange, meaning either the negative 5, 5, or negative 2 lock could be opened while unstarred. But that's more or less all the analysis we can actually do right now. And after all, we do have some entirely safe and, uncontroversial opens right off the bat. So we can do those. Once opened, this gets us to 14 orange and negative 16 blue, which does open up the negative 2 lock blue available to us, but we'll leave it for now since we just don't know which one needs to be opened unstarred. And now, speaking of starring, let's think, generally speaking, when we'll need to use them. For orange, we know it'll have to be while it's negative due to the negative 8 lock in the top right. That means the 5 lock is what has to be opened with our excess keys, and that we need access to all the negative oranges when we actually implement the star. As for blue, it's much the same logic. Since we have multiple positive blue locks, we'll have to use the star while we're in the positives, thus meaning we need to open the negative 2 lock with again, our normal keys. And similarly, all positives need to be exposed when we use our star key. So with that covered, we can open said -2 lock, then flip orange and thus blue due to lack of any other options at this point. We can again open as much as possible that are just gains, and with that we make all the negative orange doors successful, thus meaning we can take the orange star now. There's only one blue lock behind a door, but since it's bicolored, we can't open it while starred. But thanks to the arrangement of the unstars, we can star our blue, then unstar our orange without unstarring blue, thus not wasting the -2 from the bicolored door, and still following the rough route correctly. And don't forget to open the blast blue at the start too while it's starred, thus opening the bicolored behind that. And after that we can unstar since all overspending doors have been cleared, clear the final negative orange bicolored and sign flip back to -blue. And from here it's just opening a good few doors, following the rules we set up until they're almost all cleared and we've met our goal, so we can finally open those couple of doors at the bottom to enter the next level. Well, to start off, there's literally only one salvage we can make here, so let's just do that first. But as for the meat of the level itself, we need some amount of pink and greens to get through its various doors. The pink is handled right at the start, which will work out the exact counts later, but the green is currently not on the level at all. So once again, we need to go searching for a door to get green on 22. And of course, the second we go out into the lobby, we can see our answer, or rather, answers. One of these bicolored pink and greens that we saw on the bottom left will be our way to actually get green. But we'll have to figure out which by solving the key counts needed in the level itself. Regardless though, we can set ID 23 to the green door, so we'll be able to grab our bicolored one later. For when we actually have our hypothetical green and pink set up, we'll have infinite negative masters, so for all of these gates, we can open as many copies as necessary as the actual spending of doors. Working from the top down, just because the ladder doors are a bit simpler and thus provide more info, the bicolored pink at the end has access to infinite copies of 2, 4, and 8 doors to reach 0 keys, all being multiples of 2. Thus, we can at least know that pink needs to be a multiple of 2. Can't be odd. Next, the bicolored green has only a 5 lock and 3 key pickups afterwards. So, to put this in terms of modular math, given n as our green count, we can think of this gate requirement as having n mod 5 equals 3, excluding n equals 3, of course. This, in simpler terms, just means that we need to have 8, 13, 18, etc. follow the pattern green to pass the door. This significantly thins down our options for which bicolored green we need, as, remember, we only get one door, no copies. Our next gate thins the options down even further, as we're forced into taking 30 purple, and then need to lose at least 31 via the bicolored green so we can open the negative blast. Following our previous restriction, that means we need to have at least 33 green. The remaining doors to look over all require pink, meaning we can more or less just find our green, then find a way to make pink work around it. Looking at our bicoloreds in the hub once more, we actually only have access to 2 viable doors, 38 and 33. So, with our options further narrowed down, let's look at our gates again. Continuing to work backwards, this green and pink needs the sum of pink and green to be less than 80, so the blast can still be opened. For now, we can't do much with this, so we can just keep moving backwards. The next one is much more interesting, meaning that the sum of pink and green mod 10 must equal 7. If we went with 38 green, this would mean pink has to end with a 9. But we know pink can't end with a 9, because that would make it, odd, not a multiple of 2. Thus, we know we have to salvage the 33 green door. So, we can quickly go do that, and then move on to figuring out our pink count. Because we know green is 33, pink needs to end with a 4, and cannot be greater than 44, otherwise we wouldn't be able to get past the 80 gate. At this point, you could just really easily brute force this level, but let's finish up the logic, because that's what this is all about. So, working towards the very first gate, we go to 10 purple, and must not lose all 10 purple. This is the only door opened on negative green, which is technically what we start with, so we basically need to make sure that the absolute value of green minus pink is greater than or equal to -9. While this is useful, what really puts it all together is that the door to get green itself requires at least 33 pink to open. Thus, pretty simply, since 44 is off the table, since the result is -11 keys from this first gate, anything less than 33 can't happen. We are only left with one option of 34 pink. And so, we can solve the level, which I'll let play out now. Alright, we have one last hub puzzle, and it, spoilers, will be our hardest thus far. As per tradition, we need to change the salvage eye once more to pure black in this case, so we can pass by the 3 blank blacks. After that, we need to somehow gain at least 1 stone key. Looking through our salvages, level 2 is our most promising, as it has the bicolored combo glitches that could be put onto stone. Level 3 is our only other one with more than a few set salvage options, but in this case, nothing there is particularly relevant for gaining stone, so we know that the combo glitch will have to be salvaged. So we'll once again have to set ID 22 to stone, then clear enough of the level, basically to opening the purple, to open and thus salvage the glitch door. As for how we actually open it, we have a mechanism of gaining purple already presented via level 4 salvage, the bicolored purple. This, however, gives us positive purple, while we need negative to actually, hypothetically, gain any stone. This means the purple sign flip key may be necessary. Now, there is a purple sign flip door in level 3, but there is a certain other door that I'll get to now that we definitely have to salvage instead, which is, of course, the cyan combo door elephant in the room. There is no other way to go to negative for cyan besides this door in level 3, hence locking in our other salvage, and thus we do need the purple sign flip, but let's take a detour to salvage the cyan first. To get this, we have to be at 0 masters to cross the bridge of sorts without salvaging dud doors, but we still have to somehow open the door at the end after the fact. There's clearly no way to do so with just the natural doors in this level, no keys, so let's once again go on a salvage hunt. Since this is ID 22, we have a lot more freedom in our choice, for better or worse, depending on your interpretation. Our salvage will have to be less than a tile high, or we won't be able to cross it at all. This excludes quite a lot, but still leaves many possibilities. And if you think about it a little, there is in fact no way to gain a white, red, green, and blue key all from one door, nor do any of the keys in the level give said colors, at least in a way that we can use for the door. This means our only way to open it by process of elimination would be brown. And we have seen brown exactly once in this world, in the top left, where a bicolored brown with a white lock sits. This could, hypothetically, be made to have negative real copies, thus changing it to a -1 lock that gives us 1 brown, which can perfectly open and salvage that cyan door. So we once again run it back to level 1, put ID 23 on red, open all the normal right locks, enter the top left, clear the path from input 23 to the brown door, and salvage that thing. Now, returning to level 3, we need to reach that -1 right. This is fairly simple, just making proper use of your keys and making sure you have access to a key to open the next needed door. But once there, you'll gain it and 2 masters, which lets you bring the door to a negative copy of itself, thanks to the I masters you had to used on it at the start. And with that done, we can get our brown finally to salvage the cyan. And then we can bring the 23 back to black again, which, now that our salvages are fully set up, we just need to use them right. So, while the start is simple enough, the important part is that blank white. We need to reach 256 white and must spend 10 white beforehand to reach that area at all. The obvious starting point is dividing 256 by 4, which is 64 keys, which is unfortunately not a number that we can actually reach from our doors. So, thus, we need to generalize this out. We need some multiple of 4 greater than 256 that can be brought down to 256 via our doors, which are, again, 30, 10, 3, and 2, and just in case, we'll lump in the 1000 as an option. Unfortunately, or maybe not if you like these kinds of puzzles, it's time to just do some math. So, we can generalize all of this into an equation. Obviously, the solution needs to be 256, but what about the actual, meat of it? Well, it might help to first think of a simpler one, our maximum potential key count. We can perform up to 2 instances of multiplying our counts by 4, thus meaning our max is 1280 keys. Putting these into formulas is simple. 80 times 4 is equal to 320, and 80 times 4 times 4 is equal to 1280. These are basically not even equations, they're just basic equivalencies. But in our goals equation, we know that we need to subtract some count of keys throughout each stage to reach 256. So we can represent this subtraction with a unique variable at each stage of multiplication. No multiplication, 1 and 2. And of course, this could just be 0 keys being removed. So when actually drawing this out, that results in 2 new equations. 80 minus x times 4 minus y is equal to 256, and 80 minus x times 4 minus y times 4 minus z is equal to 256. We can simplify both of these down, distributing the times 4 to get 320 minus 4x minus y is equal to 256, and 1280 minus 16x minus 4y minus z is equal to 256. The next logical step is just grouping like terms, aka subtracting out the non-variable term from the left-hand side of each, and that returns negative 4x minus y is equal to negative 64, and negative 16x minus 4y minus z is equal to negative 1024. And then we can just simplify by dividing or multiplying by negative 1 to each side, resulting in a positive equation, which is, at least in my opinion, a bit easier to think about. So for our first equation, 4x plus y is equal to 64, we know x cannot be greater than 16, nor y than 64. For x, this limits our possibilities of keys removed at that stage to 15, 13, 12, 10, 5, 2, and 0. A fairly small sample size, so we can pretty easily just check if any of those have a viable solution for this level. Going down the list, respectively, 60 needs 4, so no, 52 needs 12, which is impossible due to the 10 being used for the x, 48 needs 16, which is not reachable, 40 needs 24, same deal, 20 needs 44, 8 needs 56, and 0 needs 64. None of these y values are reachable, meaning we now know that we have to use both multiplications. In other words, moving on to our other equation, once again, that is 16x plus 4y plus z, which is equal to 1024. Our maximum key removal with x, that doesn't go over, is 720. From 45 times 16, thus necessitating that z will be greater than or equal to 1000 to actually clear all of this. And furthermore, that z is still a multiple of 4 at that. If we first try z equals to 1000, we end up, after simplification, at 4x plus y is equal to 6, meaning x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 6. which the latter is just not possible, so z cannot equal 1000. The next viable multiple after that is actually reachable, is 1012. So, trying that, we end up at 4x plus y is equal to 3, thus meaning x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 3. The latter now actually being possible, thus meaning this is our solution. So, to put it back into lockpick terms, we don't open any normal doors immediately, and first open 2 combo blasts, setting us to 320. We then remove 3 with the 3 lock, and once more open 2 combo blasts, bringing us to 1268. Finally, we can open the 10 and 2 locks to reach 1256, and open that big 1000 lock door to reach our magical number of 256 white keys. So with that finally out of the way, we can get back to reaching the next level, which from here is thankfully pretty easy. After we reach the 256 white, we grab our tri-colored key batch to get our -4 cyan, thus providing the -12 black and access to the purple sign flip. We can then grab our purples with the bicolored door sign flip, and we'll then be gaining from the combo glitch, so we can set the state to stone with the 1 lock at spawn, open the glitch door, setting us to exactly 12 stone keys. So finally, we can open the 12 lock door and enter the last level. And thankfully, this is one of the easiest solves ever. You just have to grab the -5 purple, sign flip, and head out. But, let's not kid ourselves. There is clearly more going on here, like that weird purple monolith thing. Doing the same stuff, but then grabbing the pure keys on the left, we can actually access it and read it.
You've reached the end of the Labyrinth of Dreams, but beyond your sight, so much more remains. Should you find yourself with no place to go, you'll awaken in a new domain.
So, there's clearly still more puzzles that we can't see yet, which we can glean from that, but we seemingly need to find ourselves with no place to go to actually get there. Obviously, we have to do something else to get there, since we already finished the level, but didn't unlock anything else. Well, there's only one other thing we can even do here then, and that's salvaging. We have input 27 as our salvage point in this level, which needs 0 black to reach. However, we're forced into taking 6 black to even reach it, so we have to find a way to get rid of said black. There's 2 glitch doors here that seem like an obvious enough choice, so let's look for a way to set the state to black via our output of ID 22. And sure enough, the answer lies on the path that we just took to get here, a blank black. It's a very simple salvage, so hopping back into level 5 via the fast travel, we can set the state to black with that, thus forcing the pures, then collecting our black. Now, arguably, we just take the -5 purple first for the sake of, not being wasteful, but for the sake of demonstrating the logic, once we've opened that blank black to reach the salvage point, the only salvageable door left will be that purple lock. Hence why we must take it in that order. And if you're curious, no, there's still no way to reach any of those funky keys in the top right. You can look, but there's no way to get rid of 274i black yet, with any of the salvages that we have access to. So, logically, we then take the -5, open the glitch 3 lock, sign flip, open the other glitch lock, and reach our salvage point, and as mentioned, due to the lack of literally anything else to salvage here, we salvage the combo purple. Now, checking on the output point, which is near the normal entrance, we see something that we actually haven't ever seen before. The door we just salvaged is covering the entrance. Now, this is the important logical leap you need to make. Remember that when you beat a level or back out with backspace, Lily, our player character, gets put outside the door you entered from. We needed this mechanic to get ID 22 on the 1 lock stone multiple times, and now the question is, what if there's a door there? The seemingly useless purple sign flip above that entrance must be to open the door so we can actually re-enter it, as it brings us back to positive purple. So, once more, repeating all the steps we had to do to get there in the first place, we can now flip our purples back to positive, open the door into the level, and then either beat it or press backspace. Welcome to the focal point.